And welcome everybody to the Dr. Jane Mackenzie live on a Thursday. Today we've got a wonderful topic, one of my absolute favorites, and that is fermented foods. I really have such a huge affinity to these foods. Apart from boosting our immunity, I actually think they bring in our intelligence. They are ahead of the game. They're microbes, so they are working with the earth energy, the cosmic energy, and their DNA is changing as the earth changes. And when we eat these foods, we're getting the right microbes at the right point in time, put it that way. And they will then imprint on our DNA. So if we work on the basis that we are 90% microbial, our genetics is 99% microbial. So the only difference is 1%, which will determine eye color, hair color, size, etc. I think I'm going to give these guys a lot of credit, and I'm going to be sharing with you and showing you what I do, and I've done this for years and years and years, and show you how easy it is, how cost effective it is, and more than that, when you brew these microbes yourself, they become medicine for you. They become medicine because they're growing in your microbial cloud. So they are aware of toxins and things where you live, where you breathe, if you like. And you're making them also with your hands. 9 times out of 10, your hands will touch some of the probiotics. And especially the cabbage, if you need it yourself, it picks up even your emotions and it will heal. So very much like when you're farming and you hold the seed in your hand for a few seconds or in your mouth, that seed will read you like a computer and it will grow as food for you. So we buy food and we don't know who grew it. Maybe a machine popped it in the ground and it grew how it thought it needed to grow. But when you grow your own foods, it's food as medicine for you. And each time you repeat the generation, you are strengthening the strains and they're becoming higher frequency medicine for you. So you've made the food intelligent. Once you've fermented the cabbage, it is intelligent, way more intelligent than when you started off, for example. So, this is old technique, old technology. The ancients knew that you shouldn't eat food unless you have some sort of fermented a probiotic on the table, such as a kimchi, a cottage cheese, a kefir, the sauerkraut. They knew that this was how you digested your food. So along with the microbiome reset, which comes from the 365 Healthy by Choice range of nutrients, it's brewed by a master brewer. I can brew it, but honestly, I can't do everything. So I do hand it over to the first generation brew to a master brewer, and then we second generation brew it. I spoke last time about this. And then we add various very high frequency intelligent nutrients which are carrying their own microbial field or group of microbes, which then get second generation fermented, which is bringing in again a higher level of nutrients and a higher level of microbe, because obviously a spirulina, pollen, a medicinal mushroom will have a higher level of microbes around it, being much more higher frequency food than lettuce, for example. So that's why second generation brew it, and it will produce nutrients not even documented. So that's really amazing. So we're going to have a lot of fun today, and I'm going to be sharing with you what I do in my part-time. All right, so let me start by bringing in the slides. So this is the beginning slide, recipes for making fermented foods. And honestly, once you get the hang of it, you won't want to taste and eat someone else's probiotic, someone else's fermented cabbage or kimchi. You just won't. You know, you can get a bit snobbish about it and it will be yours. Right, so let's move then to the next slide. And I'm going to be having a look at some of the health benefits just to give us a bit of structure. And there were a whole load of these different fermented foods to look at. So the background is the background of the microbiome reset. That is what they look like under my microscope on the slide. So I took a few drops of microbiome reset, I dropped it on the slide, I put a cover cap over, and I put it under the microscope. And I got this beautiful thing. I did it really a couple of years ago, but there was this unbelievable blue, and there were golden and green and copper and pink and blue organisms, all different sizes and shapes. Look at them. Some of them are long, some are short and stubby, and they just held their steady state. They didn't move like a parasite all over the screen. There was no big movement. There was just the steady state of these organisms. And, that really spoke to me. And I thought, my affinity for them grew even more. And, I've looked at it before, farmers are quite used to making microbes. And the one farmer's microscope, not mine looks like this, but this, when I looked down, it was this gazillion of lights, like a galaxy. So that would have been a not as high resolution as this one. So you can imagine all of these little gold organisms looking like lights, like a galaxy with a lower magnification. So the health benefits are that they boost our immunity, and 75% of our immune system resides in the gut and the digestive system. 75%. So if you have a flat, I call it a flat, a level of microbes in your gut, in other words, on my machine is measuring in the red, imagine you've cut out almost 75% of your immunity. I think that's quite serious. So for that reason alone, we need to take them. And of course, our body is our gut is a moving system. So they are working, they are cleaning, scavenging, making vitamin B, K, neurotransmitters, etc., and dying. And they pass out. And they need to regenerate quickly. So we need to eat the prebiotics as foods so that the probiotics, the effective microorganisms, can grow quickly and multiply quickly so that there's enough left for later in the day and tomorrow. Of course, if you go through an X-ray machine, you're killing all of them. If someone sits next to you who's on an antibiotic, they're going to shrivel up too. They're going to try and hide away. That's how sensitive they are. So when you meet your friend for tea, the microbes also do. They also shake hands, just to tell you. So they are sensing all the time when you're walking around what's happening. And so we need a healthy gut. 75% of the immune system is there. The rest is, of course, the white blood cells, the beta cells, the T cells, NKF cells. Those are all the rest of our immune system. So when a foreign organism arrives in our body, we need two aspects of the immune system to go to the site, and they do, to help us heal. Remember, our mitochondria are bacteria, a eukaryote. So that even tells you. So other benefits, they will reduce gastrointestinal irritation. That's for sure. People with reflux, one glass of the probiotic, let's say a tablespoon, they will get immediate relief. They just need to stop eating heated oil, wheat, and dairy, and eating in a hurry and eating in front of the computer. They just need to take a little bit of care, because a reflux, your body's telling you, please don't put this in me. I don't want it. So it will help irritation. They digest our food, most importantly, because if we don't have digested food, we can't absorb it. We spoke last week about this. I'm just reminding you really. So the ancients knew they would put something on the table, and I'm going to go through some options with you today. For how many people are low in vitamin B and K? Just about all people. So without a high level of effective microorganisms, we're going to have very poor levels of vitamin B and vitamin K. Vitamin B is essential for stressful situations and a lot of other things. Vitamin K is essential to make collagen and a lot of other things. And the relevance here is that parasites dissolve collagen. And therefore, the draw on vitamin K, which makes collagen, is going to be high. So those people where I see a very low level of vitamin K, I know what's coming. I know that the collagen is going to be low, and I know they're going to be parasites. So we want to bring in the beneficial organisms to outweigh parasites, viruses, funguses, and bacteria. And very, very important, the formation of neurotransmitters. So anybody with depression who walks in my office will walk out with a large size of microbiome reset. And they will probably get the link to this video today. So we do need serotonin, dopamine, GABA, PEA. These are all neurotransmitter hormones. And without serotonin, the happy hormone, of course, we could lead to depression. And that's why I up that level straight away. Dopamine would be people who are just, feeling apathetic, can't get things done. They're overstressed, because stress will reduce your dopamine levels, testosterone levels, progesterone levels immediately. So we want to start feeding that through. GABA balances the electrical storms in the brain. So those people prone to seizures, you need your electrical storms moderated. And that's what that one's for, amongst other things. Phenylethylamine, also a hormone, an amino acid hormone necessary for brain function and stabilization. So without getting too technical, that gives us some information. I'm getting wows and everything. These are wow products. This is one of my favorite talks ever, because it's a pop-up show for me. I can talk about this. It's like, knowing the back of your hand. So let's go. This is my probiotic, and I have to put it in respectfully, because it is the king and the queen of probiotics. You're going to get over 80 live strains. And if you think about it, in the pharmacies and the health shops, you're going to get a maximum of 10, if 12, if that, hand-picked, manufactured in a dormant state, which means you need to take them half an hour before you eat, so that you give them a chance to wake up, warm up, and start multiplying, to be there ready for the food, or to reduce the effect of an antibiotic, for example. Whereas this is over 80 live strains. In fact, the master brewer told me it's close to 120 live strains and substrains. So you're going to reset your own microbiome like your fingerprint automatically. And again, I've used the slide at the back because it actually applies directly to this product. So play a role in digestion, reducing inflammation, boosting your immune system. And we second generation brew it, and I told you what that is. So you all heard. If you didn't, rewind. Okay, so now let's get to how we make foods more intelligent. And that's by fermenting them with salt. If you choose fermented food and you see that it's done with vinegar, do not buy it, because that is going to have a negative effect. The vinegar will have a negative effect in your gut, and candida can grow and all sorts of things like that. So always make sure that it's naturally fermented with salt, or in brine, for example. Brine is salt. And that would go for the kombuchas and the kimchis specifically. So we're going to look at yogurt. We're going to look at cottage cheese. We're going to look at quark, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha, miso, and tempeh. Let's go. So yogurt. Most likely, most people know what yogurt is. you would have to buy one that says with live cultures, because that isn't always a given. So always look for with live cultures. Sometimes they heat it above temperatures where live cultures don't live anymore, and then they reintroduce them. It would be best to get it from a health shop where they've used a raw milk. In other words, it's never been heated, and produce the yogurt with the probiotics without heating heating the milk to the level in which the probiotics die. I'll speak to you about that now. So yogurt and all of these are pre-digested. So even if there's a milk allergy, 9 times out of 10 you can consume a yogurt or a kefir or a cottage cheese. And often the probiotics that are in the yogurt outweigh any small allergy symptom. And you don't also need that much. A teaspoon could actually be just the trick. So it's not about, how many bowls of yogurt you've eaten. It's just to get some organisms in there to help the food digest. And it's pre-digested. So that means that the protein and the sugars are half digested, which is going to cause a very little allergic reaction or intolerance. So it's saying there, look for live active cultures. Sometimes it lists the strains. And then just be aware, because sugar is often added, especially if it's a berry yogurt or a fruit yogurt or something like that. So that's the last thing you want. Let's have a look at a recipe. So this is what I used to do. These days I just make the kefir because I like fast, healthy food. Anyhow, here's how you do the yogurt. You will gently heat, and I mean it to just above body temperature. So it's not really heating, it's warming. Raw milk always, because it's got the food in the quantum state, which means the DNA is intact, the intelligence of the food is still there. And that's when it can work on the different dimensions of the human body, also physical, neurological, emotional, and spiritual. So milk is an unbelievable nutrient. And I touched on that just now. It goes to different dimensions of the body, mind, emotion, and spirit, as does honey. These go to they appeal to different levels of different dimensions. So that'll be for another day too. So these are revered foods, very, very high frequency. Not anywhere near meat and lettuce and vegetables. Very, very, very high frequency foods. But again, you just can't eat loads of it. It's not how they're made. So then once you've got this raw milk gently heated just above body temperature, remove it from the heat, and you add a tablespoon of regular plain yogurt that already has live cultures in it into the warmed milk. So let's say a liter. You could add more if you've got more. You could even add 3 tablespoons if you wanted to. Just gives it a quicker kickstart. And then you place it in a warm oven, also set it about 40 degrees overnight. Close the door, and in the morning, voila, you will have thick yogurt. So then you would put it in the fridge in a lidded jar. And then you could do whatever you wanted with it. We do amazing things with the yogurt. We actually ferment our calcium, our raw calcium. And the live cultures change the calcium from inorganic to organic, and the body can digest it. So that's happening outside of our gut. Imagine what's happening when we do consume yogurt. These organisms are digesting our food for us. They're reorientating everything, sorting out the muck, the good from the muck. So it's really, really interesting to follow these. and to feel the difference in you, to feel the happiness, the contentedness, and the centeredness, as opposed to, running from the line all day. They do balance your nervous system. And now we're going to look at kefir. And again, I'll always use raw milk. And I get the benefit of the bit of cream because there's lots of vitamin D, vitamin K, enzymes in a whole milk, as opposed to a low-fat milk or a skimmed milk or something. You're missing out. You then already started to separate the milk from its natural state. If you've got a clean body, your body will handle all of these. It's when you blocked, the digestion's blocked, your system's blocked, you're constipated. That's when the problems occur, because the foods over ferment inside you, and then you will get worms and parasites and hookworms and things like that. So kefir is a fermented milk, and I love this. Here's mine. I'll show you in a moment. And I've got a spoon here as well. It's a fantastic source of probiotics, even better than yogurt. So there are more strains. It contains upward of 60 strains. How's that? And it's brewed aerobically. You'll see I've got a paper towel over mine. And that's because there's some little holes here. So it needs to breathe. It's an aerobic. The microbiome reset is anaerobic. And this drink is an incredible source of calcium because it's partially digested in any event. It's made the calcium in the milk into a more digestible form. And it's partially digested the sugars. So they're not going to cause a problem in the body. So how do we make it? Right. So we get our kefir grains from our local health food store, or we buy them online. You buy your raw milk and you place about a cup full into the glass jar. So I'm going to let me read this and then I'll show you mine. You add the kefir granules to the milk. You cover with a paper towel or cloth with holes in so it can breathe and get air. You leave it for about a day in very, very hot, warm weather. So the kefir will be made in a day on those hot 28, 30, 32 degree days. In cooler weather, maybe 2 to 3 days. And these organisms love cream. They love it. So don't give them, please, low fat or a skimmed milk. You're not going to get your harvest. And remember, they've also partially digested that. So it's not going to be an oil that lies in your blood. You know, I've got a thing about heated oil and oil lying in your blood. So this oil will go straight through to the cells. And then you harvest it before the whey appears. I don't think I've got any way to show you, because what happens is the cottage cheese separates and the whey stays at the bottom. And I'm going to do cottage cheese after this. So if you want to keep your kefir, you must harvest it and put it into the fridge before it separates. So let me just go back to the full screen. And here we have mine, all right? And like I said to you, I like fast food. So you can see some of the curd starting there. And this for me works. I don't have to put ovens on. I don't have to heat milk. I don't have to do anything. I preserve the kefir as exactly as it is. I don't know if I can bring... You can sort of see there that we've got some sort of wavy pattern forming on the top. And that's where all the cream is, and that's what they love. So always use a wooden spoon with the kefir. Don't use metal. So wood, worst case, plastic. And you see what I do. So let me just get this so you can see. As I pull the cream away, you've got this beautiful curd. I should have got a spoon, sorry. That starts forming. That's formed. Sorry, it's formed. And inside here will be the kefir grains. So you have to get them out. You've got to get these kefir grains out. Otherwise, you'll lose them. So it's a good thing. I'm going to see if I can find one. Sometimes they're small and then they grow and they multiply. Anyway, they're like they look like a plastic piece of cauliflower, but they're not plastic. I'm trying to find one. I can't actually see one. Anyway, that gives you the idea. So this here is ready. I'll pour it into a bowl, and then I will fish out the kefir grains. I will put it into a new glass. I will put a tablespoon or 2 or 3 of the existing kefir into the new glass, and that's a starter. And I'll pour raw milk over. They're quite accommodating. They don't really mind cold milk. So if it's come out of the fridge, they don't really mind. They adapt straight away. It gets to room temperature and they're happy. And as I say, these kefir grains can get very big sometimes. But you have to treat them. You can't use skim milk. They all never grow. They don't like that. I thought I had a grain there. So that's my kefir. If you've got any questions, let me know. And this kefir I will use with the Joanna Budwick mix. When we take a cup of the kefir and we put half a cup of cold pressed flaxseed oil. Obviously, you've taken your kefir grains out, and then you blend that like in a NutriBullet or with the stick blender, and then you homogenize the flaxseed oil, all right, into the kefir, and then you would have your mixture, and you then add a tablespoon or so of flax seeds, ground flax seeds, some fruit, some brain fuel. We love putting the brain fuel in, and that's like a meal in one. And that oil, that flaxseed oil that's immersed into the kefir or the yogurt or the cottage cheese is made to be water soluble. That's what you want. And a water soluble oil will not block the veins. So it's going to disperse straight to the organs and the cells. That's what you want. Softens the whole body, makes it sleek. So let's see here. Back to the kefir. So there's the kefir. There's the milk that made the kefir. So what I said here, if you leave it for too long, what starts happening is the cottage cheese, it gets thick. The kefir gets thick. And then there's the watery whey left at the bottom. So let's see how we continue this and how we get the cottage cheese. So here's the cottage cheese. You see, it's the dried form of the curd. So I've said they see the recipe for the kefir and continue, leave it for another day or 2. If it's cold, maybe 3 days, I'm not sure. And wait for the whey to form at the bottom. And then you can actually buy a proper straining bag, and you pour the whole lot into the straining bag. You tie it up either over the sink or over a bowl, and you let it dry. Overnight is good. And you get there in the morning and you open up this material, and inside there is this ball of pure cottage cheese that you have made. And it tastes divine. You cannot get shop-bought cottage cheese to taste the same. It's just on another level. And as I said to you, it's appealing to higher dimensions of us. And once it's dry, you would then store it in a lidded jar in the fridge. So I don't know what could be easier. The kefir and the cottage cheese are just the easiest. Quark I've just put in there. I've never made it, but you're going to use rennet, which is an enzyme from the cow's intestine. It does taste amazing, and it's also used in the Budwick cottage cheese mixture. So with the Budwick, they like the cottage cheese and the kefir and the quark to do the trick. It's the sulfur in the milk that suspends that emulsifies the flaxseed oil. And again, it's not about quantity. It's about the quality of your fermented product and the amounts of organisms. So I'm getting the most from the kefir when it comes to milk fermentation. Okay, sauerkraut's another whole story. And here's mine. And if you want your food to digest, try any of these. The food slides through. I definitely use a flaxseed oil when I'm using the sauerkraut. Sauerkraut kimchi, it's about the same. Here they've used the red cabbage. Here they've used the green cabbage. Kimchi, you'll then add things like carrots, chilies, and so on. So it's a fermented cabbage, very low in calories, high in fiber, vitamins, minerals. The fermentation process makes these nutrients more readily available. So they're partially digested as well, pre-digested. Avoid adding sugars and preservatives. We don't do that. We don't add vinegar. It is extremely delicious and adds to the texture to any sandwich or salad. And that's true. So let's see how we make this. Here we've got the sauerkraut recipe. I would get an organic cabbage. And those of you who go onto my YouTube channel and you type sauerkraut in at the top, I've got old videos from like 2020 and earlier showing you actually how I slice it and so on. But that's not difficult. So, but just to tell you, and there's lots of videos that I have, educational videos, talking about fermentation of food. So you get your cabbage, and I shred it by hand because I was going to say old-fashioned, but I do that because of the quality of the sauerkraut that I'm going to get. It's going to be food for me. It's going to be medicine. And I'm raising the intelligence with my energy. So you slice it as thinly as you can. You put it into a bowl. Then you're going to sprinkle 1/2 to 1 tablespoon of Himalayan salt. Bearing in mind, I mean, a cabbage can be this big or this big. So just get the salt to taste, but you need the salt because then I cover it with a moist cloth and I leave the cabbage to sweat. It tenderizes. And then when I come with my hands, it's not so much hard work. Look, you break your nails and things like that, of course, but it's the process and your thought process while you're making it, the microbial cloud while you're making it. So even the kefir it's fermenting in the microbial cloud in my kitchen. The sauerkraut, when you make it, is being processed in your microbial cloud. It's sensing. The organisms are sensing. And again, producing food as medicine, highly intelligent food as medicine. So then I come with my hands and I massage the cabbage like this. And you really are massaging it. It's sweating. And then you start getting some juice at the bottom, some cabbage juice. And the cabbage becomes a little bit translucent, a little bit see-through. It looks different. It doesn't have that bit like this. Then you pack the cottage cheese into your jars, of your storage jars, but you pack it in so tight. You push it, you push it, you push it, you push it. You can see how I've pushed it in here. You don't want air. And you push it right to the top and under the cabbage juice. If there's cabbage juice left, I pour it in the bowl, in other words. So a half full jar is not a good idea. So it comes with time and practice. But this is probably 3/4 of a cabbage, average size cabbage. And of course, if you've got an organic cabbage, it's so different and it's so much easier to massage. Once you've packed it in and the juice is up to the top, you put the lid on the top. And I put it into a plastic bowl because it's going to it's going to ferment inside anaerobically inside this jar. And the cabbage juice leaks out, and you don't want to come down in the morning and see a big pool of all your lovely cabbage juice lying on the counter. I'll rather grab it and drink it. So many of the people with degenerative disease, we recommend the fermented cabbage juice anyway. It's so healthy. So in the morning when you go down there will be some spillage. Some of the cabbage juice will have come out. You open up the lid and you push it in again with your hands. You push the cabbage down under the liquid. Close it. Come back in the evening. Open it. Let all the gas out. Push the cabbage down again. Close it. And you do that for a couple of days, depending on the temperature outside again. So this could ferment in 4 to 5 days, or maybe 7 or 8 days. It just depends. Then what I said here is release the air twice daily, push the cabbage back. Store them in the fridge once the cabbage no longer rises to the surface. There will become a day when you come down there, there's no gas to release and the cabbage has stayed down. Straight into the fridge. And that will last a very long time. So you've got pre-digested cabbage here. An A blood group, for example, where it suggests a blood type A not to eat cabbage, does very well with a pre-digested cabbage, fermented cabbage. Just to say. So it's suitable actually for all the fermented foods are suitable across the blood group type. And what I didn't put here was I add caraways. Caraways are lovely for digestion, caraway seeds. And you can go to town, you can add all sorts of things that you like. I just always think when you're starting, start with basic. Don't get too carried away, even with the kombucha. Don't get too carried away because, I don't know, these things could, these you got to talk to them. You've got to talk to your microbes. Let's just have a look. I want to see if I can also open this up, which obviously I can open it, but I want you just to see. You see, it's packed. It's packed in there. That's a very big piece. And then when you're using the sauerkraut, you'll always get a clean fork. Never ever use a fork from another dish or anything like that that's been in your mouth. Or don't do that. You're going to contaminate this and it's not going to last. Yeah, so that's about that with that one. I love it. I love it. It's for any dish, any of these so far. With any dish that I'm eating, it just elevates the meal. It puts it on another level. And that's what we're all about. We want things on another level, on a high level, high life force, high energy, high frequency foods. So now we've got another one, and I'll tell you the story about the kombucha. I used to buy it from the shops, and I used to end up sitting next to myself. In other words, the alcohol content was way too high. The sugar content was way too high. I'd finish the small bottle. I would finish it. And I asked myself the question, how come? How come this unbelievable brew has this effect on me? So I got hold of a friend, and I got hold of the SCOBY. And this is mine here. It's a little bit heavy, so I'm going to be careful. And there's a SCOBY inside here. If you can see it. Yeah, there, it's a bit of a frequency there. I actually disturbed it a bit when I carried them. You get the SCOBYs on the top, usually. And I started, and I got a recipe, which I'm going to share with you, and I started making it. And I read that it needs to taste like mature vinegar. And I let it ferment until there weren't bubbles, and I started tasting it, and it didn't have that alcoholic sugary effect on me, which I think is a disaster. Anybody with candida or cancer or degenerative disease, and you're drinking an alcohol infused, sugar infused drink, you're just asking for trouble, straight trouble. The organisms are just going to grow. You're feeding them. So the idea here is that it tastes like enhanced vinegar. And then it's a medicine. And here again, let's have a look at the recipe. We go back there. So here's the recipe down at the bottom. But just before we go there, it's a fermented tea. It goes back thousands of years, very rich in antioxidants, protects your liver, low in calories. Obviously, there shouldn't be any. And you can also second ferment this. So you would make your brew, then you can add something like a pineapple juice and ferment it again. And you'll know because it becomes gassy. And then there'll be a day when it doesn't. So then you put the lid on. And I quite like these little bottles. And then, as I said, you can add different fruit juices. And that will second ferment it. So again, you take the microbes to a higher level. That's what a second fermentation does. So here's the recipe. You'll get a pot. And this is the ratio. A cup of water to 1 tablespoon of sugar to 1 black tea bag. So if you want to make a liter, then you're going to have 4 cups of water, 4 tablespoons of sugar, and 4 tea bags. And that's about a good place to start. So you will then get a SCOBY. There's the SCOBY on the top. A SCOBY is a colony of effective microorganisms that live on the top. You'll get one from a friend, or you'll ask me for some. So these SCOBYs multiply, and you get a second and a third and a fourth layer. We take it off, we give it to our chickens, we put it in the compost. Some people, and I've tasted this myself, they make a kind of a sweet out of it. So you can even eat the SCOBY, to say. And as I say, it multiplies. So you do need to, once it's made and you've poured it. So this is getting ready to pour. See, it's flat. When I say flat, it's still got a bit of fermentation, but there's no alcohol coming out. Please note that I've used the same Colton paper on the top because it must ferment in the air. It won't happen if you block the air off. It'll die, as will the kefir. So you boil water, boil it now because there's nothing in it. Remove it from the heat, dissolve the sugar. That's what you want. You don't want undissolved granules. I use brown sugar for what it's worth, but I do. Right, then you add the tea bag or bags, however your ratio is working, and you leave it to get cool. When it's cool, you're going to add your SCOBY. You leave it for 2 to 4 weeks. You're going to have to see how your kitchen works. Whatever you do, don't put it near the fridge. And this is a true story. So our kombucha was always brewed on a wooden cabinet. And then you know how it is. You decide to change things. I got a new table and I put it next to the fridge. And then there was a lady here helping me make it and so on. And it started dying. And I was joking with her and saying to her, it really doesn't like you. I better make it next time. And then I suddenly realized I was trying to ferment the SCOBY in the field from the electrical field from the fridge. So I always tell people, if you put things in the fridge, it's going into an electromagnetic field, which is the anti-spin. It's not spin of life. It's not pro-life. So I was putting all of this together. I moved it and it grew. It revived completely, back in the old place. And how's that for a lesson? So let's not get onto electromagnetic frequencies and radiation, but just to tell you, you must be very careful of plugs and fridges and appliances near these. Yeah, and I mean, you don't need a load. You need maybe a tablespoon or less even, a teaspoon to a tablespoon per meal. And you're going to get a load of very good microorganisms. So it's a very delicious looking fermentation as well. And then here's our miso. Now miso also, I can go crazy for miso. And there's all different grains that you can use, from rice to chickpeas to all these other names that I don't even know about. it's a Japanese miso, so they knew already what to put with their food every time they ate it. If you go to an Asian restaurant and you ask for miso, they'll bring it because they eat it in the back. They'll bring it in a jar for you to digest your food. So it's a fermented condiment, it calls it here, made from soybeans. So there's another thing with the soybeans is the vitamin K level, the nattokinase. If you just ferment the soybeans, they become slimy and they become very full of vitamin K. But same here. These are made by boiling and boiling and boiling the rice or the barley or the chickpeas, and you reduce it right down until there's the pulp, and then that ferments. Salty in flavor, and sometimes also used in miso soup. And I haven't quite put that together because if you put your teaspoon or tablespoon of the miso into boiling water, obviously those organisms are going to die. They're not going to live. So when you're doing your miso soup at home, wait for it to cool down to a warm temperature, then stir your miso in. You will be then preserving the microorganisms. So that's our miso. And then tempeh, which is a lovely, it's a meat replacement. If you're vegetarian and you're weaning yourself off, but I don't see it as a meat, but just to say it's better. It's got higher protein, more available. Again, fermented soya beans. Very high in things like iron and calcium, and those are minerals that most people are low in, as well as vitamins and minerals. So that's a great food. It's a great meal on its own or an adjunct. And that kind of ends my big talk on the fermented foods. I told you all today we've got wonderful April specials from 15 to 25%. I didn't calculate it exactly, but this April we do have specials. There's the website. And then just to end off with this one here from last week, where we talked about healing the gut with the probiotic, with the cell oxygen to kill the parasites, along with the gut cleanse and restore, which is going to heal the gut and also remove plaque, and then the Parastoph, which will also kill parasites. So we're killing the parasite that we don't want. We're bringing in the organisms that we do want, the beneficial ones. And zeolite will help keep a lovely steady state in the gut, grabbing acids, poisons, toxins, and binding them and taking them out of the body. So just to remind you, and I'm going to be posting both of these tomorrow. And, that's really just the last slide. So that really ends today. If you've got any questions that you want to pose, that's perfect. Great to see all of you. I hope I've inspired you. Some of you are from around the world too. I hope I've inspired you. That's the most important thing. And you will find your stomach flattens and your energy increases and your intelligence, your brain, because gut and brain are completely linked. Suddenly your thought processes. So, the nice people have got the probiotics because I think they make us nicer people, more calm, more balanced. And they're, 75% of our immunity is in the gut. So we've got to really pay very high attention. So that's my practical experience, what I do. There's other things that I do. So this kefir, I will put on my skin. I'll put it on my face. And then when you rinse that off, you've just got like a baby skin. Honestly, the cabbage juice, the same. I haven't actually tried the kombucha, but I would imagine it works the same as well. So it gets the cells connected and speaking to each other, the electromagnetic field activated. Is the question, how much does the tempeh cost? Well, I think you're going to have to look at your health store. for that. Good. I'm pleased you were inspired. Thanks for coming in. Okay, guys. So that was a good, can you believe it? A whole hour. But thank you for coming in. It's always an honor. And I will post both links tomorrow, the part 1 and today part 2. So do write in and tell me if you're struggling. If it doesn't work, don't give up. Start again. And you'll get it right. You see, for me, I mean, this cost me, as I said to you, probably 2/3 of a cabbage, which, not that cost is the most important thing, but just hear me out. In South African rands, I don't know, cabbage must be 15 rand at the most, 20 rand. And when you buy this, you're going to be paying, for that size, you're going to be paying 200, 250 rand, just to say. The kombucha, well, I mean, you all know how much kombucha costs. And in 2 seconds, there's a SCOBY at the bottom, you see. So there's one at the top and one at the bottom. So that bottom one will go to my chickens. Again, you're going to have it on tap in your fridge. And here too, a bottle of raw milk. And that's going to last you a week. Or 5 days at least, if you're going to take a cup a day. And you probably won't. So a bottle of milk will give you lots of kefir. But thank you all. Any inspiring things, please let me know. Write in. And as I said, I'm here to help. Okay. Have a good everything. Bye.